In the middle of Jesus' teachings on the greater righteousness and piety, we find a very famous piece of text, the Lord's Prayer. And that prayer is preceded by a verse about babbling. So this is the Sermon on the Mount and babbling in prayer. The Lord's Prayer is introduced by a verse that contrasts it with the prayer life of the non-Jewish peoples surrounding Israel. And the verse reads like this: "When you are praying, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him." Now, we could see this verse as a prohibition against simply doing long prayers. And that's probably not a good way of interpreting it. In fact, in the Bible, there are many long prayers that are prayed to God. Perhaps it's better to understand it's trying to set up prayer to God as something different from prayer in the ancient world. You see, prayer in the ancient world was really governed by two aspects. I call them magic and manipulation. Magic is very simply the prayer idea that saying a certain set of words in a certain way will be able to make the prayer happen. So in Roman religions, there would be priests who were reading prayers exactly how they had been read for many generations, with the belief that just saying one syllable wrong would mean the prayer was completely ineffective. Essentially, what they were doing was not prayer, but magic. Say the incantation, and this will happen as a result of saying the incantation. Jesus says we're not to pursue that way of approaching prayer. Another idea behind prayer in the ancient world, it was very much manipulation. God, we come to you, we're going to give you a sacrifice, we're going to say your name over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and we're going to do these long prayers that really don't get anywhere to try and manipulate you into doing what we want you to do. Jesus says that's not what prayer is about. I want to listen how both of those examples are very self-focused. If I say these words in this way, I get this. If I say all this and offer all this, it will convince God to do this for me. Very self-focused. And Jesus says that's not how we're to pray. One of the examples from the Old Testament I love that illustrates this idea is Elijah's defeat of the prophets of Baal. And he sat there watching these prophets, and all day long the priests of Baal are just going, they're dancing, they're singing, they're cutting themselves, doing everything they can to get Baal to do it, just saying over and over again the name, this long wordy language. Then Elijah comes along. He says this super short, super direct prayer. Boom, down comes fire, sets the altar alight. And Elijah is proven to have the more powerful God. So this wasn't necessarily a new idea that Jesus was peddling here. It's something that has its roots in the story of the people of Israel. This understanding that prayer is not magic, prayer is not manipulation. Then what is it? And that's where the Lord's Prayer comes into play. Verse 9 starts, "Pray then in this way." The Lord's Prayer is set up as a direct contrast to this pagan, Gentile way of praying that's about magic and manipulation. We're going to see some big contrasts. Instead of it all being about magic and manipulating a deity to get what we want, it's all going to be about what our God wants. It's a huge contrast, and it sets up the Lord's Prayer brilliantly and gives us a context for understanding it. So when you pray, don't make it about manipulating God to do what you want him to do. Let's make it about recognizing God knows what we need. And let's focus our hearts on what God wants.